Superhero movies have dominated the box office for years, delivering epic action, unforgettable heroes, and record-breaking hits. From timeless classics to modern legends, these films have shaped pop culture like no other. In this video, we will be talking about 10 of the best superhero movies of all time. Kicking off the list is 2014 movie Guardians of the Galaxy. With a fantastic 1970s soundtrack, flawed yet endearing characters, and a great sense of humor, Guardians of the Galaxy was another great 2014 release for the MCU. It plucked the titular characters out of obscurity and instantly made them household names. Given that before 2014, the Guardians of the Galaxy series wasn't well known by those who weren't big comic book fans. It packs a great deal into just 2 hours, and overall feels like one of the most consistent and fully formed MCU movies. That it has 2 compelling sequels really just feels like an added bonus. Sci-fi, superheroes, and comedy all combined here to great effect, making Guardians of the Galaxy a movie that stands as a clear MCU highlight. Number 9. Wonder Woman. The DC films often seem to be playing catch-up to the Marvel ones, but not in the case of Wonder Woman, which came out before any MCU movie featured a female title character. Narratively, this has a similar approach to the first Captain America movie, being an origin story for Wonder Woman that largely takes place during one of the World Wars. Here, it's World War I, and in Captain America, it's World War II. It showed that the origin story approach for a superhero film still has legs, because Wonder Woman worked incredibly well as a movie for its character, who's always been iconic despite, prior to 2017, not having a big, successful film to her name. Besides a slightly flawed climax, Wonder Woman is an entertaining blast of a movie, and arguably the DCEU's best release of them all. Number 8. Logan. If Logan counts as a sequel to the previous X-Men movies featuring Wolverine, then it's easily one of the greatest sequels of all time. But to call it a sequel feels a little like a disservice, or at least partially misleading, seeing as it feels remarkably different from the X-Men movies that preceded it. It's a more intimate movie than previous X-Men movies, with a somber tone and brutal fight sequences that are jarringly violent compared to what came before. But Wolverine's a hero with retractable claws in his hands, so it makes sense. In any event, Logan is a thrilling take on the character and served as a great swan song for the character that Hugh Jackman so memorably played, until the announcement that he'd be in the third Deadpool, that is. Number 7. Iron Man. At the time, few could have pictured what it would spawn, but in hindsight, Iron Man is one of the most important superhero movies of all time. Its release marked the official start of the MCU, and though Iron Man as a character wasn't as obscure as, say, the Guardians of the Galaxy, he wasn't exactly a household name before 2008. It took viewers by surprise upon release and introduced a unique tone to the superhero genre, given it was a little grittier and more realistic than much of what had come before, but not to the point where it would turn off younger viewers. Iron Man was well-written, well-cast, and incredibly exciting, and understandably helped make the MCU the cultural juggernaut it is today. Number 6. Black Panther. To this day, Black Panther holds the rare distinction of being the only superhero movie nominated for Best Picture. It was the first MCU movie to feature a predominantly black cast, as well as a black central hero, memorably portrayed by the late Chadwick Boseman. While the titular character was first introduced in Captain America, Black Panther gave him a chance to shine, and served as a proper introduction to the world of Wakanda. Beyond being a step forward for diversity in the superhero genre, Black Panther is also an exciting and very engaging film, helpfully boosted by Ryan Coogler's direction and its cast, most notably Michael B. Jordan as the complex antagonist Killmonger, who remains one of the MCU's greatest villains to date. Number 5. SpiderMan. SpiderMan is one of the greatest superheroes of all time because his exploits often prove to be painfully relatable. He's strong and heroic, but consistently feels like an underdog, frequently clashing with powerful villains and also struggling with all that life can throw a person's way, ultimately making it greatly satisfying to see him overcome the various challenges he faces. And nothing understands this element of the character quite as effectively as Spider-Man 2 does. And though it sits in the middle of an overall good trilogy, it's still easily the best of the Spider-Man films directed by Sam Raimi and starring Tobey Maguire.
Number 4. Superman. It's impossible to say that big-budget superhero movies weren't great until the 2000s, simply because Superman exists, and 40-plus years later is still one of the best of the genre. It's an old-fashioned and incredibly charming film, with it easily being the greatest movie to feature the one superhero who's arguably the most famous of all time. Superman is big-hearted without ever being corny, with the titular hero getting into very few fights, and instead being shown to use his powers more often than not to save people. It's an optimistic film full of hope and love for the title character. And though superhero movies that have followed tend to get a little darker or more violent, Superman remains a charming novelty of sorts to this day, thanks to its passionate and spirited depiction of an iconic comic book hero. Third on the list is Avengers: Infinity War. There are more than 30 movies in the MCU. It's an all-encompassing behemoth of a franchise at this point. But there's no getting around the brutal truth that as far as the MCU goes, things are probably never going to get any better than Avengers. Almost every character from the first 3 phases of the MCU shows up here, all brought together to take on Thanos, who's determined to obtain every Infinity Stone and use them to eradicate half of all life in the universe. The stakes are impossibly high, and the tension is palpable throughout the entire runtime, with non-stop action and a sense that the good guys really don't have plot armor anymore. Thanos himself is also the best villain in the entire MCU, and the way Infinity War effectively makes him the main character is fascinating. Infinity War is a dark, fun, gripping, and memorable film, and it's impressive that such a huge movie came together as well as this. Second on the list is Spider-Man: Into the Spider-Verse. Before the MCU's live-action Spider-Man series tackled the multiverse in 2021, an animated film in 2018, Spider-Man: Into the Spider-Verse, did it even better. It's surprising just how great this movie was and how it took everyone by surprise. Few would have expected it to be a genuine and instant superhero classic.
It might not be a stretch to say that a superhero origin story has never been done better, with Miles's personal journey from awkward high schooler to one of many spider people being perfectly told and incredibly emotional. Beyond being an introduction to Miles, it's also an introduction to the Spider-Verse and all the weird and wonderful spider people within it. And topping the list is none other than The Dark Knight. As all the aforementioned movies show, there's some serious competition when it comes to picking a single superhero film to be the greatest of all time. Yet for as fantastic as its fellow great superhero movies are, none stand quite as tall as The Dark Knight, which was already seen as a brilliant superhero film upon release, and has only gotten better with age, somehow, in the years since 2008. From the opening bank heist to Heath Ledger's iconic take on the Joker, The Dark Knight is simply a phenomenal film for each minute of its lengthy 2.5 hours runtime. It's a film that ranks among the greatest movies of its decade, and 15 years on from release, it remains the very best superhero film of all time. Which of these are your favorites? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with your friends.